Greetings, HPLD listeners. Before we get to today's podcast, just a quick update on something we have available. If you go to mylibrary.us and check the menu, we have an item, COVID Business Help. This offers resources in English and Spanish to help those who run small businesses who have been impacted by the economic effects of COVID. So head over to mylibrary.us and check the menu for COVID Business Help. You can also get there by going to mylibrary.us/jobs-and-business. Today's episode is another show from several years ago when we had a Weldcast project going. This is an interview with Miranda Carbaugh, who is the co-owner-operator of Wiley Roots Brewing in Greeley, Colorado. Please enjoy.
Welcome to Weldcast, a digital project from the High Plains Library District. This project records, documents, and preserves the rich artistic history of Weld County and its residents through storytelling. The stories are stored digitally and are available to all users online at weldcast.com.
This is our main brew house and fermentation area. We brew on a 7-barrel system for our production system.
The voice you are hearing is Kyle Carbaugh, head brewer and co-owner of Wiley Roots Brewing in Greeley. And the noise in the background is the beautiful music of beer being made.
This is a 26-gallon system, so this is our pilot system.
Nice. So this is what you do if you're testing something out to see
exactly
what happens?
Yep.
On this episode of Weldcast, Peter Dirk sits down with Kyle's wife and partner in running the brewery, Miranda Carbaugh, to discuss the origin story behind Wiley Roots. She shares some of the secrets behind their early success at the Great American Beer Festival, and also talks about how operating in Greeley has impacted their business.
Well, let's just start right at the top then. You know, of course, many of us love beer. I know that's a big secret. But, you know, not all of us, or not many of us even, really can make a career out of it or do make a career. So tell us about how you started.
So Kyle started brewing in the basement, and, you know, I was very supportive of, you know, his hobby, and I'd sample, you know, different things that he brewed at home, and,
right,
you know, kind of moved, you know, into the kitchen, and he just really seemed to enjoy it and was passionate about it. And for Christmas one year, I made a journal for him. So basically it was just kind of a list of all the breweries in Colorado. And this was, I think, for 2009. And the goal was to travel to every brewery in Colorado.
Nice.
And so I volunteered to drive. So basically that was kind of our goal, and we totally didn't make it. But we hit probably 80 to 85 breweries.
Wow.
And during that year, and
wow.
We got to travel all over the state, and, you know, it was just such a great culture. And, you know, during that process, I fell in love with beer, and, you know, I tried everything and just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And at the end of that year, because of how wonderful everyone was, you know, for the different brewery trips that we went to, we just thought, you know, we have to be a part of this industry in, you know, some capacity, and hoped that, you know, we could make good enough beer to start our own.
So it was a combination of something that you guys kind of got into, but then also seeing how great that community was. Is that
definitely
prompted a lot of it?
Definitely. You know, I can remember, you know, we went down 285 and went all the way down to Cortez and went back up to Grand Junction and came back over, you know.
Yeah.
There were a couple, you know, day trips, weekend trips. And we had some favorites. We had some, you know, not so much
sure.
on the favorite end, but we just learned a lot from every single one of them. And we'd ask bartenders, you know, what they thought about working for that brewery. If we could talk to the owners, we did.
Okay.
We just looked at, you know, what their tap room looked like, what their environment felt like, and we didn't even go into it with the, you know, expectation that we would start a brewery. We just went into it with, you know, the idea that we just wanted to sample what they had to offer.
Yeah, that's like it's kind of a Colorado thing. It seems like if you go to almost any town in Colorado or any city, you can go to at least one local brewery, right? I mean, it seems like no matter where you go, it's kind of like a fun thing to do if you just find yourself in a part of Colorado. So that was kind of how you got into it, as far as, you know, it was this fun thing that you guys did together. And But then tell me a little bit about how it transitioned into a business.
One of the main things that we learned when we went to all these other breweries is that consistency and quality is just so important. And a lot of the newer breweries that had opened up when we went on this tour, consistency seemed to be a major challenge for them. And so that's why we kind of looked at the resources that we had, and Kyle's parents live in Greeley, and they have a horse barn. And so we purchased a couple fermenters, 7-barrel fermenters, even though we were still homebrewing.
Uh-huh.
And we had our pilot system, this like 20-gallon pilot system. And so we just tried to learn how to brew on a commercial scale way before we opened.
Okay.
So Kyle, we were probably, I think, 24 at the time, 24 years old. And Kyle had mentioned, I really want to do this. And, at that point in time, I said, this sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
We were 24. This is, the financial situation, mortgage crisis, all that.
Yeah.
So getting a loan at 24.
Yeah.
We knew that would be a challenge.
Right.
And so, based on, we both had, you could say, corporate jobs, we kind of survived, through that. And we decided on our own to be self-financed.
Okay.
And so we basically lived on one income for 5 years.
Okay.
If you can imagine, for 5 years.
That would be, yeah.
And so we technically formed what is now Wiley Roots in 2009, and very, very patiently waited until we, had enough money saved to then finally open in 2013.
Okay.
My initial plan, I worked in higher education before this, and, really loved my job, really loved my career. And, it was just kind of something that the more that we, dove into planning the brewery, it was just, I'd like to be a part of this. To eventually I felt like I have to be a part of this. Yeah. And so the plan was never for me to leave my job first. It just kind of worked out that way.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up leaving my job, and so I run the tap room and the business operations. And Kyle, kept on at his job in Denver. And so we were open for a year and a half, and he commuted to Denver and then brewed, kegged off beer at nights and on the weekends till we could basically afford for him to quit his job.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was definitely quite a go, but that's kind of how it transitioned from, being a hobby, into something else.
You guys started really strong. You won some awards at the Brewfest in Denver right away.
Yeah, we to meet the deadline for the Great American Beer Festival, because we had planned on opening mid-July. We opened before the end of June.
Oh, okay.
For just a couple of days, just so we could meet the deadline. And then I think it was in September, we won the bronze for the Super 77 American Wheat. And, winning the first time, it just, you're in this room of thousands of people, and, you doubt yourself, who's to say, I'm any good at this, or, you're just in front of your colleagues that, they're famous,
right.
to you. And so you think in your mind, how is what we're doing remotely on the same level as what they're doing? So to win a bronze, literally, I can't even describe how awesome that was. And then, the following year, we didn't win a medal. And so, I think feeling that, it's just, wow, this is truly a once in a lifetime accomplishment. And then to win the gold medal for the same beer. This year, I can't even describe how that feels to be so proud of that beer, and that beer specifically. I don't know if you know the backstory on that beer,
No.
but That beer just means a lot to me, and my family. My family immigrated from Russia before the Bolshevik Revolution.
Okay.
And they worked long hours in a coal factory, a brickyard, saved enough money to open a farm in Milliken, which is where my family's farm is today. And basically they farmed by hand for an entire generation.
Wow.
And the first tractor they could afford to buy was the Super 77.
Okay.
So, I came from those, entrepreneurial roots and, had that growing up and, with my family. And so I loved that we got to name that beer after something that was just such a part of, who I am and growing up.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. To think about brewing that beer with that in mind and like putting the label on and it's got that, and that's a pretty incredible journey for an idea.
True.
And a family journey, and it's all kind of wrapped up in that one thing. That's really great.
Yeah, but I would definitely say to win a medal for anything, the commitment to quality and consistency is just so key. But to, win a second medal for that beer, it just really confirmed that, this wasn't luck, this wasn't,
right.
chance, that we somehow ended up with this medal, that this really is a solid beer, and, to be recognized by, people that do this for a living is just incredible.
Yeah, it would seem, I could see what you're saying maybe, because it's like, in the Olympics, it's sort of the beer Olympics, except for it's almost the Olympics of an art, where it's kind of harder to have specific guidelines. In the Olympics, so-and-so crossed the line first, so they won, but with something artistic like this, it's harder to say what's better, and so to win twice is a pretty big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. So for people who live kind of outside of especially the immediate area, Colorado and northern Colorado has become this real mecca of craft brewing. There's a lot of breweries and a lot of smaller breweries and that kind of thing. So what is it about the area that has caused such a boom here?
I would definitely say water quality. Some of the other breweries in other states have to spend, tens of thousands of dollars on a water treatment system, just to be, at the level of what our water is like in, Colorado or northern Colorado. Definitely, I think the culture, people are used to taking a weekend or going on trips to go see breweries, and, people have goals to travel to as many as they can and, try really out there, unique styles. I think the culture of craft beer, people are willing to try new things where, certain products, people aren't going to see a beer on the, or see an item on the shelf and take a chance on it. Where with craft beer, people do. People, I've never heard of that brewery, or, I've never tried that beer from them. I've liked everything else they've come out with, but I've not had that beer. And so people are more willing to take a chance, with their $8, $10, $12, I would say, as a whole. Definitely our distribution laws in Colorado, the fact that we can self-distribute our beer is just so important, that we're able to go to our, local family-owned liquor store and show them our product, have them try what we have to offer. And, we're able to compete at the same level as some of the macro brands, even though as of right now, we're still hand bottling. So,
right. So you're able to actually brew the beer, load it up, and take it to the liquor store just all yourselves.
Yeah, and a lot of other states are, they're not in that situation.
Yeah, if you ever wanted to go to a place where the distance from where the beer is made to where you would drink it is very short. If you're like someone who likes to farm to table and know where it came from, this is the place to be.
Absolutely. For sure. Yeah, people have been really understanding about it, especially when they see all the things that, when you walked in, we had that pallet, of all the brewing equipment moving through the tap room.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's part of the experience too of, when you go to a brewery in a tap room, that's maybe some of the difference, because if you go to, one of the big ones and they have their tours and stuff, you are not going to see somebody coming through with spent grain or something like that, or doing that kind of stuff. It's part of it feels like you're very close to what's happening here.
Definitely.
When you're in here, which is something I think is really cool.
Thank you.
So there was a profile of Wiley Roots in 5280 magazine, which is kind of like a lifestyle magazine from the area. And it's a really short, it was kind of recommending Wiley and some other breweries. And it talked about Wiley, and it was a little less complimentary of Greeley, which is the city where you're based, where we are right now. So I'm going to read this and then ask a question about it. Driving through Greeley, you often get a whiff of, well, you know. But today, the aromas of hops and barley fill the air around the University of Northern Colorado. So I'm a Greeley native myself, and, I have no problem saying that Greeley has a well-earned reputation for being a cow town. But when you meet other people from Colorado cities, they'll often think of Greeley as that smelly place and all that kind of stuff. So do you feel like it's been tougher coming into the beer scene from Greeley as opposed to Fort Collins or Boulder or Denver or something like that?
Absolutely. And I don't know if you've read the Beer Advocate. They had a class of 2015, and they had a very similar article about WeldWorks. Okay. And so absolutely, I think, I'm not going to speak for, the other breweries in Greeley, but absolutely I think we felt that way that, we are trying to put Greeley on the map. I would say not even try. We have put Greeley on the map along with our colleagues. If you look at 50% of the breweries in our city won a medal at the Great American Beer Festival. I don't know. I don't know the statistics, but I'm assuming a lot of cities could not say that. And so I think that mindset or coming into Greeley with that expectation actually shows a very outdated, idea of what Greeley is coming out with. And so, we do get that from time to time. Someone comes in the tap room or interviews us or, talks to us. And to me, it just shows that they have no idea or, they have no idea what great things we are doing in Greeley, and it's a commitment, like I said, to quality and consistency that, the 5 or 6 of us, we're all of the breweries we're trying to do that, and we have done that, and we're winning medals. We're winning on a national level, and so I'm hoping that those articles can start to showcase that and talk about what we're doing and not mention manure in the same sentence.
Particular, people either love sours or really don't like sours.
This is Don Wood, co-chair of the Wyoming Brewers Festival, who just happened to be at the brewery working with Kyle on making one of the hottest styles in beer right now, sour beer. Whether it's a Berliner Weiss, Goza, or sour IPA, these beers are popping up everywhere, and Wiley has quickly made a name for itself with its mastery of this sometimes polarizing style.
I'm a big sour fan, and so for me, this is a little more of a passion project for me to be like, no, I have a say, and so therefore we're going to have sours.
That's how everything gets done, right?
I can do it, and I'm in charge. Cool. But that's one of the things we're trying to work on, and our goal for this is to make a approachable sour, right? Kind of bridge that gap, and not have those sours you drink and go, oh, it's really good, but I'll stick with the one, and I'm going to move on to something else. And so when I told that to Kyle, he's like, yeah. I said, it's June. We tend to have really nice weather. Let's get something nice and sessionable. Then people go through the line, they get their pour, take the sip, and immediately go back to the back of the line to hit another pour on.
Can you tell us a little bit more, like, from the insider perspective? Like, what is that brewery community like, and how has that been for you guys? Supportive? And
I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, that's one of the reasons why we were drawn to this industry is just how collaborative it is, and people are willing to share ideas and, concepts, and thankfully we've been able to do that on a local level. with the other breweries in town, as well as other businesses. We've, created a lot of collaboration beers with products that they create, whether it's tea, things like that. We've also, worked with other breweries, thankfully now in Denver and, Loveland. And so I think it's just a great way for us to, learn from them. They can learn from us. And it's not, just about the technical product that we're making, but just
Sure.
the concept and, the styles that we're brewing, the way that we're, sharing that message with everyone else.
Sure. Yeah, it seemed a lot to me, outsider perspective, that, this industry is a lot more all in it together than some others I've seen. It seems
I think
more
as a
that way.
craft, we have to be,
Yeah.
I think, Dogfish Head, they talked about that we're fighting for pennies. And,
Right.
compared to the macro brands, we want to be in it together because, we're creating this really unique product, and we're not necessarily able to compete on price or volume. We're competing on the unique and specialty things that we're doing. So why would we take away from another brand in our own city that's coming out with something special and unique?
Right.
We're going to support that just like they support us.
Right. That's awesome. So are there any particularly interesting characters you've met in this line of work? And
Yeah, I asked Kyle that question, and he he definitely wanted me to share. He went on a road trip, if you will, last month to Jester King, and got to camp, on their actual brewery, grounds, and
Wow.
he got to camp with basically the guys from New Belgium, and just to be able to be in the same room is, again, kind of what I mentioned with being around, in our world, it's famous people,
right.
to be around Peter Buchart and his family. It's just he was just awestruck, I think, to again, kind of what I mentioned, just how are we remotely in the same game as what they're doing, in
Right.
terms of quality. And it's really special to be around your heroes in that way.
Yeah. It seems like, you guys have kind of your own subset of heroes in this industry that probably, I'm thinking of, do you ever watch Parks and Recreation?
Yeah.
And Ron Swanson goes to like a woodworking convention and he's like, oh my goodness, that's so-and-so, he made this amazing chair. And it seems a little like that, where you've got these heroes that most people probably don't really know about, but that you guys and other people in that community are big fans of. Have you found those heroes to be, is that a good experience, meeting those heroes?
Definitely. I think initially you want to ask them for an autograph, and you just subtly remind yourself, friends don't ask friends for autographs. But, it's definitely special that, in our industry, just, whether it's, acting or whatever industry it is, entertainment, you have people that, really stand out and, make a product such as a film or, beer. That, it influences you, before you join this industry, you taste their product and, you learn from them. And so to be around them is just extra special.
Cool. So has getting involved in the business of brewing and beer and all that stuff, has that changed your relationship with beer since that started? Do you feel ever like, oh, geez, beer around me that I don't want around me? Or
Well, we go around to other breweries. We try to go to other breweries as often as we can, and we try, really, off the wall types of beers or styles. And, we know from doing this as a business how hard it is to, create that, that specialty beer. And so we appreciate it, I think, that much more when we find something that just, blows your mind. It's just such a specialty type product.
so it's changed your relationship, but in a positive way. I mean, it's been a good change, your relationship with beer.
Oh, definitely. I wouldn't say that at the end of our day, we sit down at the bar and,
Right.
another beer. I don't want to drink our own beer. I mean, it's definitely not like that.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
we definitely still drink our own products.
Good. What would you say to, if there's somebody who isn't a huge fan of beer, but is kind of interested in it, what would be kind of a gateway for them maybe to getting into it?
I would say just if you're willing to try anything.
Yeah.
When we started that trip, I had, style preferences.
Sure.
But I, required myself to try everything. And sure enough, my palate adjusted. I started to enjoy different styles, and at this point, I'll drink anything. I enjoy any and all styles. And when we have customers that'll come into the tap room, even if they don't like it, just that they're willing to try something new, I praise them for that, and just say, good job, you tried something new. That's all I can ask. That's all I can ask of any of our customers is, try something. If you try something enough times, your palate, I think, will eventually adjust.
That makes sense. Are you still a wine fan?
I am, but I probably haven't had wine in probably 6 to 9 months.
Wow.
So we have a chocolate porter that was aged in a wine barrel, so that's as close as I've come to wine. But
it's bringing back those phantom memories of
yeah.
Okay, I have one more big question for you.
Sure.
So I have a downstairs neighbor who brews a lot of beer at home, which we know because when he's brewing and he's boiling things and stuff like that, it wafts up into the upstairs apartment. And so he does a lot of it. And, we've talked to him a lot, and he'd love to do that for a living. He'd love to do that. So what advice would you give for somebody looking to kind of make that transition into a bigger world of brewing? Like, what surprised you about this business, and what do you wish someone had told you is maybe the best way I can ask that question?
Well, I definitely... It's someone, gave me all the advice in the world, I wouldn't have changed my decision, which is, I guess, a good thing to say. But, it really is a culture and a lifestyle. And, as much as I mentioned how much we financially prepared for this, and, we did the best that we could, but, emotionally, you go from an office job, I had a corner office in downtown Denver, to, bartending and, just wearing different hats. And, I think emotionally, it's hard. It's really hard to have, your product in front of someone. They're tasting it and drinking it in front of you. And, rating it. And, it really takes a strong person to engage with them, hear if they don't like a certain aspect of your product and not take it personally, but still be confident in yourself to know what you need to change, but also know what you're doing really, really well. And, maybe they just, don't know.
So kind of hearing that feedback and being able to evaluate it non-emotionally, even though the product is emotional, even though
Absolutely.
It's an important thing.
And I think it takes a special person to be in that situation. I also think that, it's not as lucrative as, as people may lead other people to believe. It's, and I read something to myself. There was this blog, it was either 8 or 10 pieces of advice for entrepreneurs. And I read it to myself whenever I'm having a really rough day. But, there's one person that you get to know better than anybody else, and that's yourself when you open your own business. And, you think you work really hard before, but when you do it for yourself, any excuses that you have, you can't blame anything on anybody. If something isn't the way that it's supposed to be, there's one person, and that's you. And I don't think that's for everybody.
That's great.
No, it's not. Answer. I don't want to mean to make it sound. I'm trying to be realistic. That I don't mean to discourage anyone. We have a lot of people that come in the tap room that, are doe-eyed and were where we were several years ago. And, I just try to tell them, or first of all, if they ask for advice, I'll definitely share my opinion with them. But, it really is, I think, so Kyle and I, we just took off a couple of days together. The last time we had days off together was in July. So to give you an idea of, we're here all the time. We work all the time. We don't have children, so I can't imagine opening your own business or brewery with children. I can't even imagine what that would be like. But it is all-consuming in every way. And, if you don't love it, you're very quickly going to burn out because, energy, emotions, that's gonna get you through about the first 6 months, and then you're really this is my life, and you're doing the best that you can, and I think you have to be confident and believe in yourself. I mean, that's really what I would say. If you believe in yourself, and that's the kind of person that's going to be successful being an entrepreneur.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Weldcast. If you would like more information about the project, or you would like to participate, please visit our website at weldcast.com, or by calling 1-888-861-7323. This has been a production of the High Plains Library District.